Boom. I still love this intro so much. So everybody, welcome back to the new year. I'm so glad you guys had a fantastic New Year's and Christmas, and I hope you guys had a great year. And I hope you guys are looking forward to another great year to have moving forward. Um, I got so much stuff I want to talk about right now, but without all that nonsense, I want to get diving right back into this. We took a little break during the end of the year there, and I'm really glad to be back with you guys and talking to everybody. So I'd love to introduce a big player all over the world right now, and a big change is happening right now in the industry. So without further ado, I want to bring in Anthony Kessler here with us tonight. Talk a little bit about what you got going on, Anthony. How you been, man?
I've been good, man. And that intro, man, that's something that I was getting pumped up. I was like ready to like go and jump on stage. I
That's
was
what
like,
it's about, right? You got to get excited, right?
I felt
All
like
you some ballyhoo in the background.
give me the mic. I'm about to, go in there and kick it with like being an MC or something.
Hell yeah, hell yeah. So, and man, tell us what's going on in your world. Right now, you had some big changes coming on, right, between you and ATM, and what's going on in the future. Kind of give us a little small recap of what this is about.
Yeah, absolutely, man. As many people know in South Florida that especially by now that I left I left my partnership with Above the Mark. It is definitely, all on good terms. There's good blood between, myself and them. They still, will contact me every now and then for my opinion. So, on what to do or who to book and things of that nature. But for the most part, I've been booking labor down in South Florida, and then actually, as of recently, within the past like year or two, booking not just South Florida, not just the state of Florida, but actually in several states across the country. So it definitely was growing, but after 10 years of being in the game, I just felt that it was just time to somewhat move on. It's a very stressful business. And I just seen other opportunities elsewhere, and you always got to be 100% into whatever you were doing. So I didn't believe it was fair for the people I'm working with and, and the clients that I'm serving, to continue in if my heart wasn't really in it 100% anymore. My heart is in production, but just not into the labor side of things.
So I want to dive into that a little bit. So you were doing labor for 10 years,
Right.
and what would you say was what were the hours like?
24/7, man. 24/7. There was no hours per se. It was
Right.
24/7. Obviously between the hours of like 9 to 5, is the bulk of it. But I would get a call at 5 o'clock in the morning. I would get a call at 2 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock. I mean, you just never knew. It's also between maybe employees having issues getting to work, or last minute changes from a client. Hey Anthony, is there any way you get me guys here in like 20 minutes? Hey Anthony, is there any way you could get me guys here tomorrow morning? And sometimes it was like, could be as little as 2 guys, or it could be as many as 20 guys. And within under 24 hours, I would have to try to get 20 guys for a call for tomorrow. And anything I do in life, I put my all into it. And so I did. I placed the business. I'm not going to say a business, because obviously I've been doing labor before ATM, but I placed the business of labor ahead of my life for the last decade. And that's how I was able to pull off all these miracles all the time. And because of that, it grew, I appreciate all the clients that I built up over the years. And they knew that they could count on me to try to pull some miracle out of my hat. And I did. But in order to do that, like I said, I had to put really my life on hold. And I'm talking about not just like a social life, or not just like like a family life, but doing laundry, paying bills, things like that, like all those things. A lot of times, I got to the point where I was just working from home, mostly, and even working from home with the washer and dryer like 10 feet away. I still was having a hard time doing laundry sometimes. And it's, like my dad would say, like, hey, if like, if you love what you do, then you never really work a day in your life. Um, and I did, and then I would say that I did love it and I didn't mind it for so long. But then, we all grow. And then I think all of us reach a point where it's just like time to move on, just like anything else. And I think I felt that this was the time. But yeah, the hours are 24/7, nonstop. And to be successful in the labor game, that's really, well, be successful in production. I mean, that's kind of really what it is. But the only difference between other aspects of production is that when you're in the labor game, you know, you don't really, I mean, these are human beings. I mean, it's not like, oh, clients calling you because they want 20 more light fixtures that you have hanging in your warehouse. It's either you have them in your warehouse or you don't. I mean, these are human beings that have their own lives and their own schedules. So it becomes very, very challenging. And there's no way to really determine how long it's going to take you to find those individuals, because, you know, sometimes you get lucky and you're able to book it pretty fast. And other times it's more challenging because you got to really dig in deep into the roster just because of people's availability.
You mentioned a couple of things that I want to touch base on. You know, I'm sure everybody can relate to the laundry situation. Everybody gets super busy, you know,
Right.
especially when you're on your own in life, and you know, laundry becomes this like this chore that's to get done. And it sounds like, oh, it's so easy. You put it in the washing machine, you put it in the dryer, take it out. But it's like, I gotta get it in there. I gotta put the stuff in there. I gotta put it in the dryer. I gotta take it out. I gotta fold it, put it away so I can use it. And I know a lot of us are just like, we're just throwing it all in there. We're dumping it. As much of it is, you know, whatever color, it doesn't matter. Just throw it in the washer, max that thing out, throw it in the jar, max it out, and I'm just gonna throw it in this corner. And by the time I get to it, I got another call to go to, so I'm gonna pull out what I can, and you know, and it's just
Right.
this vicious cycle. We also mentioned you were 24/7, and you know, one of the things I wanted to ask real quick, you know, in that kind of 24/7 lifestyle, you know, how was everything in between that? You know, it's, you know, we say we're 24/7, right? But some of us get to sleep, some of us get to have this, but you're not only on site dealing with stuff, but you're having to deal with the other side of the business that a lot of us don't get to see, right? But you're dealing with the end client and the freelancers and those phone calls about things. How does some of that affect what's going on in your daily life? Because it is a call, right? Like, hey, I have a show going on, I have a lead out there, but I
Right.
got a call from my client because XYZ did XYZ, and now I have to deal with this. How does some of those scenarios play out for you?
So basically, you know, it was funny because with ATM as of recent, you know, we were hiring, you know, ATM was growing, you know, exponentially. And we were hiring more and more people. We were onboarding more and more people to try to, you know, obviously business grows, you need more people, you need more people to man the ship. And during like trainings and talks, I would, you know, my advice, I would like tell people, okay, this is how you do this. And I was saying like, hey, you know, I learned this stuff out of necessity because I'm not, obviously I can't be on a desk on a computer all the time. So I would be booking calls in the car. I would be booking calls in the grocery store. I would be doing, that's how and then you learn out of necessity. And it's funny because then you start to approach who you book in different ways. And so like, you know, if you're on a computer and let's say like whatever format you're using and you're going down a roster, you know, then the roster more than likely is sorted in a alphabetical way. So once you're dealing with hundreds and hundreds of you know, individuals, obviously it takes you time to go down that list. But like say if you're in the car and I'm like, you know, have one thumb, you know, on the phone and I'm trying to find somebody. I mean, sometimes I would hit it up and like I would do a different search in the phone, or I will go through recent text messages. And then when you do that, it helps not just try to start from a list alphabetically. So therefore you approach, you know, you're asking different people, you know, like you're keeping that list broader. You're not always reaching out to the same individuals, because if you do that, you do kind of pigeonhole yourself, um, you know, into just having that one group. And then as you start to get busier, a lot of these individuals and a lot of these freelancers are not as responsive because you haven't reached out to them in months. So you know, I would say that, you know, like approaching the list in different ways and targeting it in different ways at different times really helps you kind of spread the wealth, you know, so to speak. And you learn that you know, I learned that out of necessity. And again, because I had to work with the tools I had. And then there was a part, and I don't really want to, you know, name drop, you know, but so as far as companies, but I left years ago, I left one company and I brought another company down to South Florida. So it was like somewhat of a partnership at that time. And obviously, you know, because it was in the beginning stages, I had to freelance at the same time, run the company, which was challenging. And I don't suggest a lot of people to do what I did, but I was working for, you know, other companies, other entities, other shows. And as I'm like, you know, pushing cases, texting, you know, and I'm taking calls and I'm trying to do these things. And again, like, you know, my thumb got really fast. And, I was able to like multitask in my mind. And, I do appreciate those companies that I was working for that never gave me a hard time, because they could have easily said, hey, you're on my clock, you can't be doing that. But luckily, they were all very, very cool with me, and they didn't do that. They're probably cooler than I would have been to some of the guys I had on site. So, but yeah, I mean, it was, again, nonstop, 24/7. And then you just kind of learn how to like live out of necessity. And you just gotta make it happen, at the end of the day. And, I just was always that guy that would just try to make it happen. And, like, what is it? You just don't make excuses. You just get the job done. And what is it? And I used to say, and then again, it's not the right way to say it, but sometimes back then I used to tell myself. So I think I saw the quote in a movie one time, but I would be like, what is it? Losers try their best. Winners take home the prom queen. So I just never, I just never, so no excuses, just made it happen.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
And there's definitely this kind of model that goes in industry, right? Like, I get it done, be hospitable, be personable. Something you mentioned on here is, and I'm curious, you know, other than that text message or that personal touch that everybody provides, what would you say helps guys out? And, this is obviously coming from, we've talked about this before, but now that you're kind of um free of the I don't want to say shackles, but the holdback of the companies.
Right.
What would you say helps freelancers as stand out for every company, right? So someone's going to come in and try to take over this and try to multitask the way you do and try to remember things the way you do. One thing I felt you did extremely well was you knew a lot of the guys, the hands. They weren't just hands, right? You
Right.
knew a lot of the guys and the gals, and you knew what their skill sets were. You're able to say, hey, this position. Oh, you know who's really good for this? This person is. Or hey, we need to say chance these people are really good at this. Oh, I need to leave. This person's really good for this. You had a
Right.
very good memory of that, right? What
Right.
were some of the things that guys and gals would do that helped stand out to you for future shows all the time?
I would say like one of the things. So, it's two parts. So maybe we'll talk about like, the freelancers, and then maybe anyone who's actually attempting to book labor. One, the freelancers, listen, when you're in entry level, I mean, that says it all, so that's where you're going to build up either your good habits or your bad habits. So getting into this as a stagehand or a corporate AV tech in that entry level position, which would be a DAV, 80% of it, honestly, half the battle, 80%. I mean, first of all, there's that saying that 80% of success is just showing up. So that part of it's important, is key, but 50% of it really, when you're getting into this, is honestly showing up on time or early. Actually show up early, because your call time is the time that you're actually supposed to start working, not just walking in the door. I mean, we're not, it's just the way this bit. The client wants people to start. If the call time is 9 a.m., they want people to start working at 9, not just walking in the door, not just signing in, all those things. I mean, you should, wherever you need to think ahead on where your job site's at and the difficulty of traffic and parking and all those dynamics. And you need to make sure that your transportation is reliable. But really at the end of the day, the client wants no excuses. But showing up, obviously dressed appropriately, the attire, which is usually all black. And when you're talking about a stagehand, the very basic tool is an 8-inch crescent wrench. And when you really think about that, you're talking about all black, showing up on time, and bringing an 8-inch C wrench. I mean, that's pretty easy. It's pretty simple. And you do that, and I can tell you right now, for booking labor all these years, that if a client sees the whole entire crew there on time, in all black, all having a C wrench, I could guarantee you that client is going to have some peace of mind for the rest of the day. So I think that those are keys, and that's very simple starting out to accomplish. And then that's just the tone too, for the person that's booking you or the company, because you can't, no one's going to trust you to do anything else, to be a crew lead, to be an operator, or any of these things, if you can't even show up on time. So that's key. And as far as booking labor, for anyone that is a labor coordinator, trying to be a labor coordinator, I mean, the biggest thing when you get into this particular side of the business and this type of industry, because I've been in other industries and as management before, the difference about this is that you cannot be a boss or a manager or an employee of the company to these guys. Like, you have to try to see yourself and do your best to be a leader. You have to do outside of the box thinking. You have to have rapport with your crew. You can't just look at them as employees or just numbers or a product on the shelf. You have to be there for them, and it's a lot, but if you're there for them, they're there for you, and you have like this honest dialogue back and forth. So, and then in your business model, if you're saying owning a labor company, you have to have room in that for like, expect that, when these guys have issues or anything like that, that you have to take the time out the day to have, conversate with them. And, and it's like, and then that has to be part of your business model when you're getting into this somehow, some way. So whoever's coordinating with the guys has to have that freedom to detach and be able to talk to the guys one-on-one. And, then guys don't want to feel like they're just a number. You need to be able to kind of mentor them and show them the way in order to start moving up the ladder in different areas, and if you want to retain them. And it's just like anything else, because in labor, basically, essentially, product are the people. And in any business that you do, you got to take care of the product on the shelf. So that means you got to take care of your guys, and to take care of your guys, you really have to be a leader to your guys, because you want to help them along the way.
I like what you said there. The product are the people, right? That's a
Right.
different way of thinking about this, right?
Yeah.
And they're not just a number. This is a person who has emotions and feelings, and
Exactly.
they're coming to you as their leader, right? To
Right.
to get that guidance. So I feel like we've talked about the past here a little bit. We talked about where you came from, what you've been doing, and now we're in the present moment here. So let's talk about what is your goals now moving forward. Now you've left this behind you a little bit. You still have a passion for this. You still love what you do in AV. You still want to keep going, right? But you're shifting gears a little bit. So what's next down the road for you?
So next is like, I want to do some other things that I think I was enjoying. And, obviously with labor, with labor, it was tough. It was like, as one person told me, it's just like, again, we work to live, we don't live to work. And I am passionate about what I do, but I think at this time too, I kind of want to have some like freedom for a life a little bit. But some of the things that now I'm kind of diving into, obviously, I'm very excited to be part of AV Educate.
Whoop, whoop.
Yeah, which I seen it since the beginning. So I, some great ideas there to start, and you've done a great job at AV Educate. I mean, it's a name, down here. I mean, I can't speak for the rest of the country because I don't travel outside of South Florida that often, but I could definitely say that from the people I talk to within the state and within South Florida, everybody knows of AV Educate. So I mean, you did one hell of a job, marketing and branding this name, and I'm happy to be part of it. And I'm hoping that I could bring a lot to the table.
Well, I just want to jump in, and I want to cut you off. I try not to do that, but
That's all good.
just for anybody watching tonight, I know it may not seem like this because ABA Kid's been around for a couple of years now. But Anthony really was one of the ones who first kind of got the idea rolling, right, with a couple of things with Kathy Lou and a couple of the people that I won't mention right now, but that helped out at the beginning. And the first 500 followers we got in the group side before we did the podcast, before we did the AV Tech Talks, before we did any of that stuff, just a group where it was just a place to share kind of your PDFs, your ebooks, and all that stuff in the group side, which is still there in the files section. Anthony gave us the first 500 people, and it wasn't like, yeah, here, just it was like, hey, you got the page up and running, cool. You got something there, cool. Here's my contact list for the people that work for me. Email this out to them to get on
Yeah,
there, and it was like, the amount of trust that takes for people to just say, yeah, here's this, because I never wanted to go down the labor route, even though I've constantly been told about this. It's like that's not what I'm doing. And Anthony like saw my vision, knew what I wanted to do, and
right.
it's only what I've ever done. I've never gone down this other route. But he was like, here's 500 names, here's emails, send it out, get it started, and that's how we got started with the initial 500. And then those people shared out to their friends and family, right? And it's kind of a mixed bag. I always felt
Yeah,
like some were sharing because they're like, "Oh, this is great, we should share it," and some are like, "Oh, I can't share this to anybody because then they're gonna learn more than me." So it's like a double-edged sword. But to give credit where credit is due, I want to say our initial boost, right? And
yeah,
we used to be much more proactive about this. Like we were like, "Hey, thanks for joining us. Here's a list of names," and then we went from like one logo to another logo. And every time we had a new milestone, 500, 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, we did something different. And I feel like, a lot of that's due to you and that hustle you have and just
yeah,
that trust in the community and the crew and myself, and I appreciate that a lot. And I just wanted to give you credit for where credit is due, man, because
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. And
I could be much smaller if it wasn't for that initial boost.
well, and then going back to that, it's like weird because I've dealt with other labor companies, I've worked for other labor companies, and there's this like whole thing like, oh, those are my guys, my people, and stuff like that. And obviously, I appreciate the respect, but you have to have some trust with the people that you work with. And number two, it's like I don't really own these guys, so. Obviously, if a labor competitor, you don't really want to make it easy for them. And here's my call list, but I mean, but at the end of the day, like especially within the pandemic, when I was with ATM, we've had to partner with labor companies, and it's like there has to be that trust level, and I think we all respected it. But at the same time, if my I wouldn't be I wouldn't be that strong of a leader if my guys were so quick to just jump over to somebody else like that. And and I think too, it's like, and plus it's a weird, it's a weird dynamic, like, and then one of the things too with the guys, it's like, and someone again told me, and it kind of it's hard in the labor business, but it resonates a little bit, and is keeping that in mind because perception is reality. It's just that, like if you make a little bit of money off of me, I respect you. You make too much money off of me, I resent you. And it's keeping that, food for thought, when you're building that labor business. So and again, it's just having that respect for the guys and everything else, and having trust. So yeah, I mean, I just have a different approach to it, and I'm glad that you didn't
And I think that
company.
no, and I think that's a great approach, right? It's like, hey, it's like
Yeah.
I don't remember who said this, but I know I've heard this from somewhere else. It's like,
Yeah.
I want you to eat, just not at my table, right?
Right.
And it's
Yeah.
like, it's like that same mentality, like
Yeah.
do what you got to do. You got to make your money, man. And the fact that you acknowledge and understand in the industry, right? We're freelancers, we have to make money to live. We have family, mouths to feed, mortgages to pay, cars to pay.
Right.
It's almost impossible to just be loyal to one
Of
company.
course.
And
Of course.
obviously, getting into that next year where you're in a leadership position, where you're a lead for that company, is a
Right.
little bit more trust that you're going to be loyal to the company. But at the same time, it's like you're not going to give me work 24/7. If you are great, I'll probably be more loyal. But the reality is like this is a market. It's an open market. It's a right to work state, and you're welcome to work with other people. And the fact that you acknowledge that and use that to your advantage, though, I think is what helped make you so successful, right? And made
Right.
what you do so successful because you told the guys, hey, I have work for you. Take when you can. I'll do good by you.
Right.
I don't have
Yeah.
work this week. Go ahead and take work somewhere. I'm not going to hate on you for it, right? And I think
Exactly.
having that mutual respect for them and yourself, and knowing that I will treat you work for me, I'll treat you better, which you did. You treated guys with respect, with dignity. You put them in positions to succeed, not to fail, right? It wasn't like, hey, I need to do this. Hopefully, you can figure it out. So it wasn't the not just to get it done mentality, but the learn by trial by fire. It was more
Right.
we can even go back to AV Educated for a second. You were investing even before this into AV Educate and training. We were doing general V training before COVID went down, and we were giving guys opportunities to learn. So it's like you were setting them up for success from the beginning if they're willing to take that step forward.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, really. I was always big on the trainings, but the first breakout operator training class, I mean, you were the one that taught it.
Yep.
That was the very first one. You were you were part, and that was before AV Educate.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I remember that was the first breakout class. But I feel like training is very essential to the guys, and I can't tell you how many guys that I've worked with that have these different backgrounds. Because everybody starts off in this industry in a different way, and there's so many other components to this industry. And sometimes I feel like some of us only get into this business through one avenue, and then that's all we do, and we forget that there's so many other concepts. I mean, you're talking about rock and roll, you're talking about theatrical, you're talking about corporate, you're talking about like there's all those party companies that specialize in high-end bar mitzvahs and weddings. You're talking about television. Some people try to get in this because they're going to audio school. Some people are getting into it because they went to camera school. There's all these different components to it. So everybody brings brings different skill sets to the table. And I've known that from interviewing so many individuals and being so broad in the type of labor that I used to provide. So, like so again, when you have these courses and these classes, they're able to take what they know and combine it with the new stuff that they learn, and it helps them to move forward. And I feel like there's not enough of that out there. And again, I can only speak for South Florida in itself because that's what I know. I don't know how it is really in the rest of the country per se, but I know in South Florida there's not enough of teaching and people growing in here. I think there's a lot of people that are eager to learn and want to learn, but they're just not given the actual opportunity or the tools to actually move ahead and learn those different things and those different concepts.
Yeah, and real quick, when it comes to interviewing, I feel like this could be a whole podcast in itself. But some of
Yeah.
you need to learn how to interview better because,
Yeah.
Anthony and me did it. I want to say mid of COVID, maybe a little bit after the big kind of thing happened. A while ago. Anyways, we were doing interviews for like 3 days, just nonstop. 8 to like 6 or something.
Right.
And there was a couple people that you and me met, and we were just like, "What?" I
Yeah.
I remember, and I won't give any names out. But there was
Yeah.
one guy that came in to do the interview in the Orlando market, and he was all like gung ho about how he's such a good camera guy, but he hates
Oh yeah.
working for labor companies. And I was just like, do you know what meeting you're in right now? This is the labor company. You're interviewing with a labor company, and you're telling me how you're such a phenomenal camera guy, but you can't find any work, but you hate working for labor companies. And
You
you
know
want
what?
to work
And
direct.
that brings up, maybe something that we should start doing at AV Educate is that maybe we should have a class on interviewing.
Yeah.
Like
Once
maybe,
a month, like just come in here and just talk to us if you're doing an interview because we'll tell
yeah, do
you what you're
something.
doing wrong.
Yeah, man.
We'll
I mean,
take
you
out
know
the
what?
notes.
Interviewing is a big process of it,
It is,
and
yeah.
like so it's that, yeah, definitely, and I guess like we're saying, like, so where I'm going ahead with this is that um I have like this transition, and obviously I'm doing other things. So it's like, every time, like, people that know me down here, they know that I'm probably someone that always has to keep on moving forward, which someone I just spoke to recently just kind of mentioned that. And that's why I say it. And but to move forward, you do sometimes have to take a step back, and then you have to reach out of that comfort zone. And obviously, me leaving ATM, is reaching out of that comfort zone once again. Like, it's like you just, because what to expect the next day, how much money to expect. Because, especially when ATM, like, as it grew and grew and grew, and it became stable, and like, I just knew, okay, cool. Like, I knew how much salary I was getting pulled out of the business, every 2 weeks, and that's how you basically, that's how you kind of, like, manage your life. And so, but you can't grow, as they say, and I've heard it a lot recently, but they say you can't grow and be comfortable at the same time. And again, like, another mentor that I kind of have that always says that, he says, and he's a mentor in, like, the business side of things. He always says that, that some of the things to success is, like, if you have lifeblood, fast nickels, and slow dollars, and if you're able to have all three of those components, then you're kind of deemed successful. And lifeblood is basically that money that you generate that you're able to pay your livelihood, your basic bills. Fast nickels are all those little jobs that you do that don't really pay a lot, but get in, get out, make a little extra on top. And the slow dollars is something that you work, that you work hard for. It doesn't happen easy. It doesn't happen overnight. It's a lot of sacrifice. It's a little bit of risk, but obviously limited risk, and obviously you can see that potential ahead. And that's kind of where it's at. And then the other thing that I talked to a buddy of mine that's in the business, and then that we always talk about, there's different segments of what we in business, what you say. So there's the professional, there's the self-employed, there's the business owner, and then there's the entrepreneur. And you can't get from one. You have to be a professional before you become. You have to be a professional before you become self-employed. I mean, like, nobody wakes up tomorrow and just becomes like a carpenter or an electrician. It doesn't happen. So you have to be that professional, and then you're self-employed, and then hopefully from self-employed. And the difference between a self-employed and business owner is really self-employed. You technically own the business usually, but it's that business is reliant upon you showing up to work every single day and doing the job yourself. So that crossover as a business owner is when you have multiple people working under that entity, and they're doing their component. So if you get sick or you can't make it to work or whatever the case is for that day, there's a team of people that are running that business still.
Yep.
So that in my definition, and then I think with that saying from where my friend got it from, I think that's that difference between self-employed and business owner. And obviously entrepreneurs, when you are able to have, several different, entities streaming in revenue. And I mean, that's the goal that I think we all would, all of us would like to try to achieve at some point, but obviously it's not an easy task, especially when, only one business can be so consuming. But, and again, all that being said, I'm just, all that being said, it's like, so moving forward, it's the AV Educate, as I just mentioned, getting into like some things with like renting cameras. We have a couple different camera packages that we're trying to rent out. I'm looking to purchase, some truss, to start renting that out. And then obviously the biggest thing, that everybody kind of sees me doing that's away from this business is obviously opening up the Kava Bar, which is very cool. It's been an adventure, definitely a learning curve for myself. But I love those challenges. So,
and let's dive into this a little bit, right? So before we dive too much into AV Educate here, right? Because everybody knows about what's going on with that. Let's talk about Kava Bar. What's the Kava Bar? Where is it going to be at? When's, what are some expected opening dates? This to me, right, with like our connections right here, this is going to be a major AV tech social area. A bunch of things going on, right? And there's going to be like just this like the meeting place now, right, for tech guys to kind of get together and have a good time. So tell me, what is the plans with the Kava Bar? I know I saw some stuff yesterday. You guys had you blacked out the wall. I started seeing someone draw or a chalkboard or draw flowers. Tell me a little bit what's going on with the Kava Bar.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Actually, I'm, even with my production family, that, like, and actually you just thought about it, maybe what I'll start doing. I don't know how many people come from the restaurant business, but that are listening to this or in production, but if you have been in the restaurant industry at some point in your life or in the restaurant industry still, that when you go places, there's a thing called in the biz, right? So, actually now that you're thinking about this, I should have like an in the biz card for production. So at least like we in production should get some type of discount. So, now that you say that, I might create that like in the biz card for the Kava shop. But that means
you heard it here first. You heard it. Discounts for AV Techs. Woo!
Exactly. Look at that. Every minute another idea is born. But so basically what I'm trying to do with it is it's the name of the place is called Kava Jive. And Kava Jive. And I was my dad, my father is a musician. So he's a jazz musician more than anything else. And I was kind of raised, before I was even in production, I was raised in a, going to like theatrical performances and, being raised with different types of genres of music. And then obviously one of them being jazz. And, and I always told myself, even, I was like, it'd be so cool if there was like a lounge around this in Florida somewhere and stuff like that. And I know there are, but there's not a lot of them that have like, jazz, blues, R&B type of stuff. And, so I developed that concept into the Kava. It's slightly different than most other the way that most other Kava bars kind of operate. It's usually you just go in, it's very, simple. You're drinking Kava and you're just kind of like relaxing. And, it's more of like a bar when you go into these places, or a coffee shop. It's either bar or coffee shop type feel. So this, I wanted to be more of like a Kava and music cafe. And it's going to be pretty cool. So yeah, you saw the video of them like, painting black. So it's going to be like a huge mural on the wall that's going to have like music concept type things. And with maybe like, then obviously a little bit of like the Kava leaves kind of on the wall as well. And then again, it's and then we're going to have like jazz night. So, and it's cool. Like the place is going to be pretty cool on the way it looks in itself. The art on the walls, the floors are going to look pretty cool. With the vision thus far, even doing like a mural on the ceiling. So it's going to be, it's the way that it's coming out. And obviously, that vision has changed so many times, from when we first started off, but it just keeps on evolving as we go. But the idea is like, and it's going to be in Wilton Manors. And I want people to, like, even if they don't know kava, like the whole idea is for people to be walking by and they're like, oh, what is this? Like, like, and not just to ask me what kava and kratom's at, but it's also just to walk in and just be like, oh, like what is for them to walk in and just be like, oh, this place is so cool, like, and I want to kind of have that feel, where it's just like a cool place to just be in, even if you don't drink kava, and obviously we'll have other things to offer, but it is a kava bar, so and we have a lot of foot traffic in the area, but also one of the main things too is we're gonna have jazz night, we have a jazz band playing. And now we're also thinking about other types of concepts. We'll have like open mic night for like, poetry sessions, like live painting sessions, things like that. Try to keep involved in the artist community and the local music community. And then, and then have that spot where people go and just relax and listen to music, or maybe go work on your computer and you can listen to some live music and things like that. So, I mean, that's kind of the concept of it. Hence why we call it Kava Jive.
I like the terminology you're using there, as well as some of the things you just said here. So for the community that's watching this, watching this video, you guys know Anthony. You know his how to contact him. You know what's going on. If you make music, if you're doing poetry, if you're doing anything in the arts and entertainment environment, reach out to him. See if this wasn't you guys can set up, because now he's got a place to do it. Has good drinks, good food, good vibes, right?
Right.
So real quick, can you tell me a little bit about what is kava and why you went with the kava route?
All right. So kava is a root of a plant. It's been around for a while, and what it does is it has like a relaxing, euphoric effect when you basically consume it. So what happens?
Which we all need that.
Yeah,
We're all super stressed out as is.
exactly. So like basically, in all the drinks that you could get from kava bars, even though you have a slight euphoric effect, it's nothing that is going to get you like wasted or even like hooked. And again, let me not when you talk about being hooked or addicted to anything, I mean, people get addicted to coffee. So, I mean, I can't speak freely, but it's not like something serious where as soon as you drink it, you're going to need another one. It's, you have that relaxing feeling, it's euphoric. And, and what happens is that, a lot of people what I've learned getting into this industry is that there's a lot of people either that, let's say, are in recovery, that, no longer consume alcohol or any type of other intoxicant, or just don't like to drink alcohol. Some people just don't like to drink. And so this is a place that those individuals can kind of go. And it gives you that same social setting of a bar, or without alcohol involved, really. And and I think a lot of people that are trying to escape, that whole scene for whatever reasons, and this doesn't have to be because, they became an alcoholic or they're addicted. They just don't like what bars bring to, like for like, sometimes you get into fights and different things like that. So, but you still miss that actual like person to person social setting. And that's what these kind of kava bars do. I've been to several kava bars hanging out, just trying to get involved in that kava community. And like no one's belligerent. No one's trying to start a fight. I mean, if you drink too much kava, you're not going to call your ex at 2:00 in the morning. So there's all those things, like, you're not going to have, what do they call it? Beer goggles and stuff like that,
Goggles,
yeah.
You're not going to go home and wake up and be like, oh,
exactly.
man,
So I
got to
don't
get
want,
out of here. Shoot the arm off, right?
I don't want people waking up in the morning with resentment. So, so it's
and then you'd mentioned, so we have an idea what kava is, right? And you mentioned kratom. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, kratom is kratom. Yeah.
So what's kratom about, and how does that get mixed into the whole thing here?
Kratom is a touchy subject. It's a gray area. I would say, just because of the stigma of it. But basically, with kratom, it's so kava is a root from a plant. Kratom is a vein. They're color veins. So it's in the coffee family. Kratom is in the coffee family, and what it does is it has basically, even though it's in the coffee family, it stimulates the same receptors that of an opiate. So basically, if anyone has ever taken, like a Percocet at any given time, you know, basically, you know, like it's like a sense of euphoria, but it's not like too overbearing. So kratom in larger doses basically has that similar effect. So you got to say like, so say if like an opiate's here, as far as like feeling the effects, kratom's here. So, you know, so what happens is that, you know, and I don't know how political you really want to get on this thing. So what's going on with the kratom world is that, so people do it, and a lot of people come off of opiate addiction, um, you know, by taking kratom, and or heroin addiction for that matter. And
Right.
then it also helps with the withdrawals. But the problem is, you know, it's like anything else. It's like, you know, and again, I don't want to get too political here, but it becomes like a big pharma pushback in the industry, and they've tried making kratom illegal a couple times for whatever reason, and they've gotten a huge amount of support and pushback, from from the community, you know, and from just from the general population. So that's why the FDA just kind of like backed down. And then and also as far as like, and even down here in Florida, obviously, you know, for a lot of us that can remember the pain clinics. I think it was like in Pompano that, you know,
Right. Right.
there was more pain clinics in Pompano than there were McDonald's.
Oh
And
shit.
so, you know, so we were the head of the opiate crisis back then, and we probably maybe still are, but it was due to that. So so we actually have a task force down here that does that. And then so that involved in that. So they actually launched an investigation in the kratom, and you know, they deemed it to be safe. So but it's weird because it's just power and pushback, and you know, big pharma's not making any money off of it. So
Right.
but
Right.
basically, but kratom gives you that same euphoric effect. It's helped so many people come off of opiate addiction, but you can't claim that, you know, obviously, you know, like anything that's in the natural supplement world, you can't go there and say hey, like this can help you with this and that can help you with this and that, you know, because it's not been approved by the FDA.
Yep.
And according to the FDA, only a drug can cure a disease. So if it's not a
Correct.
drug, then you can't cure you. So
Yep.
I could give you a loaf of bread and say this is going to cure cancer, and then I could get arrested. So you know, whether it does or doesn't, you know. So, and it's because it hasn't been approved by the FDA, and the FDA will never approve it because the bread's not a drug.
Yep.
So that's kind of like, you know, the whole thing. But kratom is definitely, you know, it's helped. It's really helped a lot of people. And again, you know, kratom and kava kind of like go together a little bit. So it's just unfortunate, you know, with the current politics and the stigma that it's not more broadly used. But that's kind of what it is. But like I said, they do go hand in hand together, and it's just kratom at this moment is in a gray area, but it has been regulated in 3 different states. And then there's a documentary that you can purchase on Amazon for like $4 or something like that. Is called A Leaf of Faith. And that kind of gives you like the background of it, you know, and how it's helped people, and how the FDA tried to make it illegal, and there was and then they failed. So but it's a pretty cool documentary to watch. But yeah.
I mean, to me, this sounds like a good time, good music, and good friends and family to hang out, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I'm excited for when you do your grand opening. I hope we get to get some dates and stuff down the road. Well, you know, obviously we'll post it all over AV Educate and every social media channel we have
Absolutely.
to get that happening. Um, it sounds like a really good time. You know, again, for the guys that are watching, guys and guys that are watching, if you're an artist and there's people that can think about that I can think of right now, if anybody knows Adiac, maybe, you know, I don't know. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, the guys who are out there that are doing this. My buddy Jack also has a thing. I'm sure he would love to do at this location. There is now a venue, a spot to hang out, do your stuff, and get together at. Maybe after some shows, you guys can hang out there on the way back home. Do a little stop by, support Anthony, support what's going on, support the community. It sounds like a great time, and I'm excited to see there. I definitely want to be there for the grand opening and just be a part of that. Support you, support what's going on. But
Right.
let's move forward now. We got about 15 minutes left, and let's talk about you coming on to on board with AV Educate and what you got planned for the future. I know you touched about a little bit of things here a second ago, but let's dive into that again. So you now come on board as the VP of AV Educate.
Absolutely, man.
We've been talking for a little bit. We talked for a long time, but now like more officially talking about what's
Right.
going on. So let's hear it from your mouth and not mine, because yours is much more powerful.
I know, man. You got a pretty loud voice down here in South Florida, man. And I'm sure it even goes more broader than that, man. Because you get out of leave this area way more often than I have.
I leave a lot more often. I don't know how much more the word gets out though.
And I'm hoping that I'm able to kind of like venture out a little bit too, So it's just, but yeah, listen, I believe in educating and teaching the guys, and I think I've come up with some great ideas um, to try to implement down here in South Florida. Obviously, what we do down here is not, what we do down here is not, there's not really any regulation per se. I mean, it's not like you need a license to even cut hair, but you don't really need anything to become like a stagehand or even on the higher ups. So, it's trying to implement some type of culture down here, so at least like, people have a place to go learn. Companies have a place to send their people to learn. And this way we're not just sending bodies out there. I mean, it's also a safety thing too. And, and again, I think there's a lot of people out there that just have that desire. And I think it's just all about just getting that out, putting it on paper, developing the classes and the courses for either companies to take advantage of, or for like the workers to take advantage of. And I mean, I can't tell you how many times I'm there on site and people say they want to learn this, they want to learn that. And I believe that we have the tools and we have the resources and we know the people that we could make that happen. Because as you get in even to the operator sense or some of these higher level positions, it's to, basically it's, not only do you have to teach them, but we also have to pair them up with other people to kind of mentor. And, it's having that involvement down here in the community and helping the guys get to the next level. And also, and if we help the guys down here learn, I think that's going to give, a better reputation, especially in South Florida, to production down here. Overall, it's raising the standard across the board on our professionalism. And, I feel like, I mean, I can't, regardless of how you say it, I can't see how any production company coming down here or anybody coming down here with the show is going to give pushback or disagree with doing more hands-on training and developing those guys to like, move on forward. And I think that we could do some great things down here. And like I said, I have a lot of ideas put on paper. Obviously everything takes time. It's all work, but I think AV Educate, once if I have a vision and I see something, just like I have with so many other things prior to this, if I see something and I believe in it, and again, I put my all into it. And and so far I've yet to really fail. So, and I'm not planning on failing anytime soon. So, and my goal is to really take AV Educate and really try to bring it to the next level, let it explode in South Florida, let it be, and again, I said that you've already done a great job with that. So, you kind of already laid out here for myself. So, I think that us together are really going to I think AV Educate is really going to explode going into the new year.
No, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate it. And one thing I wanted to add onto that as well is that for the everybody who's watching right now, again, because I travel so much, what I will say is if you have been in the market down here in Miami for 5 years, there is a work ethic that you have that is nowhere else. It is unbelievable how hungry we are to do the job, to learn it, to master, to proficient it. The downside to the Miami market as well to that, right? The flip side to this is that yes, there's tons of work down here. Yes, there's tons of guys who want to do stuff. You know, there's tons of knowledge to be passed along, but the level of skill set, right? It gets to a certain ceiling here in Miami
Right.
because it's a lot of the same gear, a lot of the same company, a lot of the same things, but also the rates down here are so much more higher for the venues, for the hotels, for everything that the gear that we get used a lot of times we don't get to master, right? We get to
Right.
use it, we get to understand it, we get to kind of touch base with it, but we don't master it. And
Right.
unfortunately, what happens is in a lot of these other markets, just go 4 hours up and go to Orlando. These are guys that we say well white glove it sometimes, but the reality is that they've touched that same console probably 300 days out of the year.
Yeah.
Exact same Ross console with like 6 different companies. Where
Right.
down here, it's like, hey, company from Chicago came last week, and now I'm working for a company from California next week, and tomorrow I'm working for Texas for 2 days. Like, there's so many different companies that come down here that you get to get hands on and see all these different workflows, these different ways of doing things. That it really speeds up that workflow process, and it really makes you kind of I don't say jack of all trades, but really knowledgeable about all the ways you can
Right.
do something, right? Because essentially, and I wish I could draw this out right now, right? But essentially, we're always doing, 2 screens or 3 screens, one on the center, two on the sides, a camera, a
Right.
stage, DSMs for at least for video.
Yeah.
Audio is always, either something on stands or something in the air. The what changes is the brand that's being used, right?
Right.
Acoustics versus JVC, turbo sounds versus whatever Mackeys,
Right.
but we're seeing all these different flavors of AV. So we get to learn a lot of these different workflows, a lot of these different processes, which is great, and it's really, it helps expedite your knowledge and troubleshooting and skill sets. But what it lacks is that consistency to say, I know this board does this and it doesn't do this, or
Right.
this is the way to work around this problem. Like down here we have a lot of hog operators.
Mhm.
Outside of Florida, most people are Grand MA, and you see both sides of this. And I'm not saying that you couldn't do that once you get to that technical position, but even then, you're getting a hog mini versus a full bore hog, or you're getting a Grand MA 1 versus a 2, and they have little differences. But in other markets, that guy is 9 times out of 10 using the same gear every single show over and over and over. And a lot of you guys that move out of this market can attest to that. I've seen a ton of gentlemen and women all over the U.S. who have moved out of this market, and they do phenomenal because they have that work ethic of, I got to get it done. I got to be a team player. I got to help everybody out, and I know enough of the other departments to be useful, not
Right.
just my one. And that's, I think, something that's really different down here is that we 100% are team oriented, and we try to help everybody out, and we learn enough about the other departments to help out, to say, hey, I'm doing video, I'm doing my stuff, how can I
Right.
help out your department so we can all get out of here. A lot of other markets are like, hey, video's done, we're all gone, video team's gone, see you in the next one. And a lot of the guys that I meet that end up being in these lead roles, EICs, technical directors, producers, um, just lead positions, are the guys that come from this market, and they're used to just being like, okay, you're done. All right, whatever. Get out of here. I'm going to help the rest of these guys out because I want to get everybody out of here.
Right.
And that only comes from, and I'm not saying it only comes from, but it mostly comes from our market. And there's something about the way we do things down here that just makes it so different.
Right.
And Anthony, I'm sure you could see from on the labor side, when you're expanding a grout, how our guys were eager down here to like, yeah, whatever you want, send me up there. What do I got to do? And then in other markets, you're like, yeah, I have this going on that day, so I can't really do that. Or you know what, that doesn't work for me. It's like, what? I'm giving you dates for work. It's like it's a different mentality. Like I could tell you a scenario where I had a friend. I'm in Texas at the time, and we're doing a bunch of shows, and he's like, oh, I haven't had work, I haven't had this, I haven't had that,
Right.
and it was like, hey, I got a bunch of shows lined up in Orlando, I can't do. Do you want to do them? And to me, this is like, you'd rather spend money than make money, right? But his reasoning for not taking the show is because one of those days he had a dentist appointment.
Yeah.
So he wasn't gonna take the show because he's like, oh, I can't cancel this. And it's like, for me, it's like, dude, you could totally reschedule your dentist appointment,
Right.
right? You could be making money for 5 days, for 4 or 5 days, um, or you could not make any money and then spend money to go to your dentist. Like, what sense does that make? And if this was like a Miami guy, what days? I got you. Making phone
Yeah.
calls, rescheduling other things. Like, if I'm making money, I'm doing what I got to do. And I think that's something down here in our market that's
Yeah.
very, very unique to our market. We're hungry for the work constantly. Doesn't matter. And I'm talking about pre-COVID to now. The guys are just hungry to work, and they're not stopping.
Yeah. No, 100%. And I know a lot of guys, man. I mean, sometimes I think they work a little bit too much, but
I agree with that too. We were just talking, right? So
we were talking
for,
about that. Yeah.
yeah, for the guys, that do, the doubles, the triples to
Yeah.
keep busy, make the money. Man, more power to you guys. I can't do it. I know a lot
When
of guys do it down
in my
here.
younger days when I was just like, freelancing as a hand, I mean, I did the same thing. I would like go sleep in my car for like 2 hours, like I would go from one gig to the next. I have deodorant, mouthwash, a different shirt, and just do them change and go into work, I'd be like, I can sleep in the summer. No big deal. No big deal. I don't know if I have that energy anymore per se. But I definitely maybe could do it for a couple days in a row.
Oh, for
But
sure, for
to
sure.
do it for a whole season like I once did, I think I'm getting a little bit too old for that. But yeah, I was the same way. Jumping gig to gig to gig, sleeping in the car,
Yep.
having a backup shirt and some stuff to keep me smelling not decent.
That's the key, right? If you're gonna do the back to back, you at least smell good on the next show, because then you're that one guy.
Yeah, man. You don't want to be pinned as the individual that smells bad on the shelf.
Yep.
Without a
You're
doubt.
that guy for life.
Exactly.
So we got about 4 minutes left. I got to give credit to the sponsors at the end here. A couple last minute things, but Anthony, before we let you go for the night, what's one thing you would say to the community? One word of wisdom or encouragement you have for the community before I let you go.
Hey, these are challenging times right now. It's post COVID. The industry, every industry, I would say around the world is facing challenges, including our own. And I would say, for everybody, I mean, everybody just stay humble. Do this because of the passion. Don't necessarily do it because of the money. If I chased money, I would never have been successful at anything that I did. The money will come, and if you love what you do, just chase that in itself. And then the business side of it, you'll kind of develop in your head. And just, yeah, and like I said, just and I said before, for the workers and stuff, just kind of show up on time, and once you're on the gig, be on the gig. And don't talk about other things. It's just be there, be where you're at. And yeah, and everybody, most importantly, stay humble. And I know right now it's like a difficult time for people, employers finding individuals to work. And I get it. The employee's mindset is like, okay, seize the moment, but don't. It's not going to last forever. So just remember these people that you're giving a hard time to, or you're canceling for other gigs and stuff like that. You don't want to burn the bridges, because at some point the industries around the world, including our own, are going to start to balance out. And again, the key word is humble. Stay humble, and stay a good person and stay professional.
I love it. I love it. And before I let you go again, I'm super excited for the
Yeah,
2022
man.
year, having you on board
Absolutely.
with us. I'm super excited to check out the Kava Bar once it opens up.
Yeah,
Uh,
man.
I look forward to doing some crazy last minute videos there and like giving a shout out to the community about upcoming dates, getting there, doing
Absolutely.
stuff, drinking kava, and just having a good time, man. I look forward to all of that. I look forward to everything we got planning out for 2022 as you a part of the on board with us now. Um, as well as just thank you for taking the time today. I know right now you've got a lot of stuff going on, a lot of planning, so I know I kind of squeezed you in here and a little forced you to get on with me today, but I really
Absolutely,
appreciate that
bro.
a lot, man. And
My pleasure, dude.
always, man, it's always a pleasure to see you, and I will talk to you in a few minutes after this.
Yeah.
Always, because we're like nonstop chatting all the time. But before I let you guys go for the night, I just want to give a shout out to our sponsors, Virtual Events, who helps us out with so many things, not only just in business but in AV Educate. They've been a great asset for everything. Geronimo and Fred have been amazing partners to partner with, and I'm so honored to call these guys my friends and family. And honestly, anybody's done our classes in the last 3 months, all the gear has been provided by Virtual Events. Uh, and stuff that I've done for Anthony back in the day. So, but anyways, real quick, here's a video of that. I'm gonna stop talking because then I just start rambling. No one cares about that stuff. So here's a video for you guys. See you in the next podcast in 2022. See you guys again.